The Pirate King, Episode 7, Leverage. By the time Sam Jensen realized the pressure wasn't temporary, it was already structured. That was the difference, and that was the part that made it harder to deal with more than anything else he had run into so far. Bad days came and went, mistakes got corrected, sometimes quietly, sometimes not. Even conflicts with supervisors usually burned themselves out once everyone cooled off or attention shifted somewhere else. There was a natural cycle to it. Even when things got tense, even when it didn't feel like it in the moment. This didn't feel like any of that. This didn't feel like something that would burn out or pass out on its own. This felt organized, controlled in a way that didn't leave room for chance. Like it had already been built before he noticed it. Like he had stepped into something already in motion, rather than something that had just started. It showed up in small, precise ways that didn't stand out individually, but started to form a pattern the longer he paid attention. Reports he filed came back with minor corrections that didn't matter. Not in any practical sense except the way they were documented. Nothing that changed the outcome, nothing that would cause a problem on its own, just enough to create a record. That part stuck with him more than it should have. Not because of what it was being corrected, but because of the fact that it was being recorded falsely. All of it. Meetings he wasn't required to attend suddenly became mandatory. His name appeared on lists that didn't include him the week before, pulling him in rooms where he didn't need to be and didn't contribute anything meaningful, but where his presence was noted anyway. He noticed conversation stopped when he entered a room. Not dramatically or in a way anyone could call out. Just a subtle shift in tone. There'd be a pause that stretched half a second too long before someone redirected the conversation, or picked it back up after he moved on, like something had been acknowledged without being acknowledged at all. Nothing big enough to challenge, everything just enough to build a pattern. And once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. Sam sat at his desk one afternoon, reviewing a case he had already completed twice. His eyes kept moving over the same lines, like they might change if he looked at them long enough. Like something he missed would surface if he gave it enough time. He wasn't really reading it anymore, not in the way he usually did. He was stalling, letting himself stay focused on something that didn't matter because it was easier than focusing on something that did. That realization sat with him longer than he expected. Not because it surprised him, but because he didn't like what it said about where he was at. A fellow investigator approached, leaning casually against the edge of the desk, arms folding loosely like it was just another passing conversation. "Man, you look like you pissed somebody off," Max said, watching him for a second longer than usual, like he was trying to decide how serious to make it. Sam didn't look up right away. "Feels like it." Mac glanced around the room, lowering his voice just enough to keep it between them. "Did you?" Sam hesitated just long enough to admit something without saying it outright. "Yeah, maybe." Mac looked away uncomfortably. Then he looked back and said, "That's major." Sam rolled his chair a few feet, letting out a slow breath. "It's nothing." Max studied him, not buying it. "It's not nothing." Sam didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence did enough on its own. Max straightened, pushing off the desk. "Just be careful, all right? This place isn't patrol. People don't come at you straight." "I've noticed," Sam said, his tone flatter than he meant it to be. Mac nodded once, like that was all he needed to hear, and walked off without adding anything else. He didn't offer advice. He didn't push further. That alone told Sam more than anything he could have said. People didn't warn you unless they thought you needed it. And they didn't do it like that unless they didn't want to be seen doing it at all. Sam watched him go, then turned back to the screen. He wasn't imagining it. That was the problem. If it had been in his head, he could have adjusted, written it off, let it go. This was real, structured, and he didn't know where it was leading yet. But that uncertainty didn't make him hesitate. If anything, it did the opposite. It made him pay closer attention. Later that day, he was called into another meeting. Not a group briefing this time, just him and Keller. The office was quiet, controlled, everything in its place with a kind of deliberate precision that made it feel less like a workspace and more like a statement. Nothing was out of line. Nothing was left where it didn't belong. Even the silence felt placed, like it had been designed the same way everything else had in the room. The assistant director sat behind the desk reviewing something on a tablet as Sam walked in. He didn't look up immediately, letting the moment stretch just long enough to establish who set the pace in the room, who controlled how things moved inside of it. "Agent Jensen," Keller said finally. "Have a seat." Sam sat. Keller finished what he was doing, not rushing it, not acknowledging Sam again until he was ready, then set the tablet down and looked at him. "You've had an interesting start here." Sam kept his voice even. "I've been doing my job." Keller gave a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. "That depends on how I define your job." Sam didn't respond. Keller leaned back slightly, hands coming together loosely, posture relaxed in a way that didn't feel relaxed at all. "You've shown initiative, curiosity, and persistence." None of it sounded positive. "That is my goal, sir," Sam said. Keller nodded once. "Those are useful traits, in the right context." He paused just long enough for the words to settle before continuing. "In the wrong context, they become liabilities." Sam met his eyes. "I understand." "Do you?" Keller asked. "Yes, sir." Keller studied him for a moment, measuring something Sam couldn't see, something that felt like it had already been decided before he walked in. Then he said, "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've had difficulty staying within assigned parameters." Sam felt the edge of it now, sharper than before. "I've stayed within the scope of my duties." Keller's smile returned slightly. "That's your interpretation." There it was. Sam leaned forward just enough to show he wasn't backing off. Not challenging, but not shrinking either. "If there's a specific issue, I'd like to address it directly." Keller didn't move. "There is," he said, "but we're not there yet." That line stayed with him, not because of what it meant now, but because of what it might mean later. Keller picked up the tablet again, almost dismissively, like the conversation had already reached its conclusion. "For now, focus only on what's assigned to you." "Yes, sir." As he turned to leave, Keller added, "One more thing." Sam stopped. Keller looked up. "Careers here are built on consistency, not curiosity." Sam held his gaze for a moment long enough to acknowledge it without reacting, then nodded once and walked out. The division hallway felt tighter than it had before. Not physically, not in any way you could measure, but in a way that made movement feel more deliberate and more noticed. Like everything he did now carried weight it didn't carry before. He didn't rush. He didn't slow down. He just moved through it, aware in a way he hadn't been before. Sam kept walking until he reached the break area. He stopped at the counter and rested his hands against it, head lowering slightly as he let the moment settle without trying to force it into something clear. It wasn't just pressure. It wasn't random correction or oversight, tightening things up. It was direction. Keller wasn't reacting. He was building something. And Sam had the distinct feeling someone was setting him up in the middle of it. That realization didn't come with panic. It came with clarity, and that was worse. That night, the shop felt like the only place that hadn't changed. DJ was locking up when Sam walked in, keys already in hand, lights half off, the space settling into a familiar quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't ask anything from him. "You're late," DJ said. "Yeah. You're doing that more." Sam shrugged. "Work." DJ studied him for a moment longer than usual, his attention sharper than it appeared on the surface. "Something's up." Sam didn't answer. DJ stepped closer, watching him more carefully now. "What happened?" "A meeting." "With?" "Keller." DJ's expression tightened slightly just for a moment before smoothing out again. It was quick, controlled, but it was there. "What about it?" DJ asked. Sam leaned against the counter, arms folding loosely. "He's building something." DJ didn't respond right away. "What kind of something?" Sam shook his head. "I don't know yet, but it's not random." DJ nodded slowly. "Then it's intentional." "That's what I'm saying." Sam ran a hand over the back of his neck. "It feels like he's setting something up." DJ's voice stayed calm. "Then he probably is." Sam looked at him. "That doesn't help." "It's not supposed to," DJ said. "It's supposed to keep you from being surprised." Sam let out a short breath. "It's a little late for that." DJ held his gaze, steady, direct. "Then stop giving him angles." Sam frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" "It means," DJ said, not looking away, "if someone's building a case around you, they need material." Sam went still. DJ went on. "Then don't give it to them." The words landed harder than anything Keller had said. Sam nodded slowly. "Yeah." But even as he said it, something didn't sit right. Because he hadn't given Keller anything. Not really. And yet Keller was still pushing. That was the part he couldn't reconcile. Sam sighed, gave his dad a hug, and started for home. Downstairs, the system continued its quiet work. In addition to the torrents the users shared, agents' names were updated, flags adjusted, patterns tracked. Among them, Sam Jensen's file came up again, sitting there in the system with the others. Processed, categorized, confirmed. No longer deleted. One of the operators glanced toward DJ. "You want us to keep it?" DJ didn't look up. No. Then what? DJ paused just long enough for the room to feel it, just long enough to make the answer matter before he gave it. Then he said, "We don't touch him." The operator nodded once. "And the rest?" DJ's voice stayed even. "The rest stays in place." The operator turned back to the screen, the system continuing without hesitation, without friction, like it had already accounted for the adjustment before it was made. Above them, the world remained quiet, predictable, and unaware. Below, everything was already in motion, and neither father nor son fully understand how close those two worlds had come to colliding. Coming soon. Episode 8, The Record.